Hey guys, welcome back. It's time for another Kellerman vlog. If you're not familiar with the series, I reread the murder mysteries by author Jonathan Kellerman and we discuss them. There are things I like, things I don't like, things I wish I could ask the author or the editor, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's get into it. This book is killer. Again, these vlogs are for people that have read the books before, but just in case you haven't, I'll give you a synopsis. Our main character is psychologist Alex Delaware, and his best friend is LAPD detective Milo Sturgis. Alex is called in to evaluate what is essentially a custody case. There are two sisters. One had a baby. The other sister thinks the sister that had a baby is an unfit parent, and she's trying to get custody of the child. And the parent is a little, irresponsible, but not anything that would justify having the kid taken away. And the other parent is kind of cold and unfeeling and unpleasant. Alex writes a, recommendation that the child should stay with the mother. And then the sister threatens him and hires a hitman to have him killed. And then she shows up dead. And so Alex obviously is talking to Milo, since his friend's on the police force, throughout all of this. And it goes from trying to figure out how to deal with somebody hiring a hitman against Alex to then solving the mystery of the murdered sister. And then even from there, the mother and the baby go missing, and one of her bandmates, she's in a band, that is a potential father for the child, is murdered. And so there's a whole thing about, is she a victim? Did she kill her sister and the bandmate? That's the mystery. So let's talk about it. I have strong feelings about this book. I wish I liked it overall more than I did. There are some parts I really like, and I like the story, but then there are just some things that bother me more than other books, and there's a few gaping holes in the story to my perception. So, here, and maybe the problem is me. Maybe I missed the answer to some questions, and maybe you have the answer, so if you do, leave it in the comments. Let's look at my notes. So, I have mentioned in the past that Cherie and Connie, those are the two sisters, and Patty and Lydia, those are two sisters from another book, are Kellerman Archetypes. Cherie and Lydia are very similar, Connie and Patty are very similar, but the big difference is that Patty is a good person, Connie is obviously not, and Cherie is a good mom, and Lydia, we don't know that necessarily she would have been a bad mom, but she willingly gave the kid to her sister to raise. So, okay, where in the timeline did Alex start doing court consultations? Because he was originally a child psychologist, then he retired, then he got back into working for both the police and the court. And when he started doing court consultations, he already had his Seville, his Cadillac Seville, which is something he bought post-burnout, post-retirement. So the timeline, we're going to work on that timeline in the future. Kellerman likes to use the name Ballister. There are a lot of names he likes to reuse, and Ballister is an interesting name for a lawyer. I can't remember exactly what it means, but I think it's like somebody who shoots or something like that. I can look it up. I got a computer in front of me. Ballister. Part of a crossbow. That's apparently obsolete. Interesting. So yeah, I think that's an interesting name. It usually turns up, in this case it's on a lawyer. I think in another book it's on a kid that is a suspected murderer. It's an interesting name that he likes to reuse. And I'm wondering if it pertains to the profession, like if there's a tie between Ballister and lawyer. Okay, I've said it before and I'll say it again. We're not going to do an outtake. That was just, again, I will say it again. Effo from this book and Flaco from Isaac's book should have been the same person. Kellerman should have wrote them as the same character. And I guess since Flaco was written first, Effo would be Flaco rather than the other way around. It would have been a really interesting way for things to come full circle. There's a restaurant mentioned in the book called Ruben Rojo's. I Googled it. I was looking for it. I was hoping it was a real place, and it does not appear to be a real place, which is too bad. I would have liked to visit. Here in the book, they refer to margaritas as Margies, or Margies, And I have never heard that. Is there anybody out there who like, well, let's go have some margies, or let's go have some margies? If you refer to margaritas that way, please let me know that maybe I'm the stupid one. So I've griped before that in various books, Kellerman retells and kind of rewrites history about Milo's run-in with Chief Broussard. And every time he goes back over that story, he kind of changes the facts a little bit. And in this book, Broussard is characterized as enthusiastically corrupt, which is not the case if you go back and read that book. And that in this book, he claims that Milo's office was a deliberate punishment, which does not really seem to be the case, again, if you go back. Medea Wright and Myron Ballister are more Kellerman archetypes. The ballsy, combative, aggressive woman, and they're often lawyers. And the woe is me man, who's usually oftentimes a lawyer as well, or works in entertainment, one of the two, and oftentimes a defense attorney. It's not generally a flattering archetype, especially to women, and it makes me think that maybe Kellerman has a bit of a sexist thing where he doesn't really like aggressive. What's the term that I always think is a compliment for women, but a lot of people use it as derogatory? Ambitious women. I don't know why people think ambition is a criticism. It's a good quality. Okay, this is one of the examples where there's another trope in these books that I feel like is not befitting of the characters, where Milo will, set his path on a suspect, and Alex will be like, I don't think that's the right suspect. And Milo will be like, shut up, Alex, I am the detective. And I'm like, okay, you should have learned, 20 books in to listen to Alex, because he's usually right. And this is probably my least favorite example of that, even though it's clear from cut and dried, because Alex admits, well, I could be wrong a bunch of times, but he's not wrong. And Milo should listen to him. Okay, so here's my first bit of confusion about the ending. Granted, this one is small. Why does it matter that the truck driver was texting if the Corolla rammed into the back of it? If you rear-end a car, what does it matter that the car that you rear-ended was texting? Like, they can't do anything about the car behind them. Okay, I've said in the past that anything in Kellerman books that's in a different font or represents a written statement, I usually skip over, because I try to read it. I'm just like, oh God, this is like several pages of telling rather than showing. And when I took writing classes, they're always like, show, don't tell, show, don't tell. And so whenever people are telling rather than showing, it just makes me cringe. And so Cherie gives a written statement, and I just gloss over it. And maybe that's another reason why the ending has some holes to me. Okay, last note. Are we supposed to know who the father is? Cherie, goes on her discussion about the person without naming them, like it's a big reveal, and like we're supposed to put two and two together from something that was mentioned earlier in the book, like, oh, so he's the father. And I've looked and skipped through the pages and tried to figure out something, and I've never been able to find it. Are we supposed to know who the father is, or is that just a throwaway plot device that exists solely to frustrate me? Okay, those are all my notes for this book. Next up is Motive, which I have referenced as a very interesting story. And I should remember what Motive is, because I'm reading it right now, and I'm drawing a blank. It could be because it's late and I've had a long day. I'm going to Google it real quick, because I always try to preview the next book. I'm reading it, and I know it's one that I enjoy. Oh, yeah, you're right. Catherine Hennepin, Ursula Corey. It's another one of those, which is a pretty common story that Kellerman tells, where there's a bunch of unrelated murders, and it turns out they're related. And, yeah, it's very interesting. It's another one where, the actual killer's a little confusing to me, and the ending's a little confusing to me, but I like the story along the way. So we'll get to that one next, I think. And I hope you're enjoying these. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you've read the books, I would love to discuss them with you, so please comment. Thanks for watching.